Greetings, people who exist only in my mind, though the concept itself is dubious. I've been doing a set of videos in which I talk about my innovation, my invention, the amplified circle of fifths. It looks like this. All right. So if you've seen my previous videos, then we're good to go. If not, go back and watch them. In my previous video, the one before this, I talked about how you can map out your tones for a major scale with the amplified circle of fifths. Right? Here's the G major scale within this border. And also here's the G major scale within this border. Right? Then I talked about how you can make modes. You can make any of the 7 modes, but the resultant scale, in other words, the scale that correlates with the mode, will have a certain name. In this case, it's the G major scale is the Ionian mode, but the Dorian mode, all right, of this scale, this major scale, would result in an A minor scale. This is a correlated scale that goes with the mode. All right, you have mode name, scale name. So you see, you have all different tones here. I talked about that in the previous video. So if you understand it and you're up to speed, we can move forward. Now, pretty much everything I've told you theoretically in this set of videos can be done and understood. It can be taught to little children without the amplified circle of fifths. Okay, you don't really need this. But now I'd like to take you into the area where it really gets neat and where you kind of really need the amplified circle of fifths, even just for fun. Even just for fun. So let's say we took this amplified circle of fifths and we changed our chart to make it easier to visualize. In other words, instead of making pie slices here, all right, that move together and draw closer, all right, instead of doing these 3 pie slices, all right, I made a symbol, a rectangular symbol, okay? So this would be your counter major data ring, all right, here, and your major data ring here, and your minor and your diminished, all right? So I made it rectangular so you can visualize it a little bit easier. Now, in the previous video, I talked about how you can take one quadrant, map out your tones for a major scale, and from those tones you can create any of the 7 modes. I just showed that, right? I just showed how you take one quadrant and you map out your modes, and ultimately they each have different tone names here for each correlated scale. Now this is very important to understand. Now you say, well, Joey, I want to use my circle of fifths and I want to make each of the 7 modes, all right, I want to take each of the 7 modes and use the same tonic, the same tonal center. Let's say C. Let's say I want you to show me how to make the C major scale and all the modes in C, with C as the tonic or tonal center. Now that's the challenge, and that's a whole different ball game. And that's where we're gonna step into this now. All right? See if you can follow me here. Let's say we have a C major scale and we mapped it out on the circle, but to make the ability to envision it clear, let's use rectangles, all right? Make it a little bit cleaner. So here you have your C major scale. It can be made using the counter major data ring, or you can start it on the major data ring, right? Now that's your Ionian mode. It's a mode, all right? But it's also your C major scale. And here you see, we have the C is your tonal center, and here C is your tonal center. But actually, in the study of modes, they used to call it a final, F-I-N-A-L, but we'll just call it a tonal center. So you see, on the amplified circle of fifths, you can envision your C major scale with these data rings or with these. Now, with each of the ensuing modes, the following modes, each of the remaining 6, let me show you this. You can create that mode using these data rings or these. You move on to your next scale, your minor scale here, all right, your C minor 2. You can use it using these data rings, or you can slide. This is called a scale shape. This is an amplified circle of fifths scale shape. You can take that scale shape, slide it over. If you slide it over one data ring, you get this. And here's a scale shape for your C augmented scale, which would be a Lydian mode, but it would be the Lydian of G. So you see here, you can take your scale shape and you can slide it right over and you still get the same scale. All right? And then same with the remaining scales. Your C minor major, that would be called dominant and traditional. You take your scale shape here, you see it? You just slide it over one data ring and you would get that. And here's your C minor 3, which would be your natural minor in traditional terminology. Take your scale shape, you can slide it over if you want to, and you get that. It's the same thing. And then here's your other scales, the 7th mode, and you get a funny scale shape, and you can slide that if you want to. You can slide it over one data ring and you get this. All right? So here's what we discover. When we use the rectangular version for better, easier visualization, all right, we discover something. Well, we're supposed to. We discover something. And so let's go back now that we've visualized these scales that are actually derived from modes, or you could say the modes were derived from the scales. But either way, it doesn't matter, because it's just to help you say, oh, I see what's happening here. And if you see what's happening, you will start to see the beauty of the amplified circle of fifths. Now, to prove it, let's go all the way back to just a simple C major scale. All right? Now, we mapped out that C major scale just like we did before. You've seen this many times, all right? That's a C major scale within that green border. I think it's green. And all we did, now watch this, all we did was we took that scale shape and we slid it down. We just slid it down. And with that same scale shape, with the same data rings, you get your C minor 3, or in traditional, that would be called the natural minor scale. All right, you see that there? You took your C major scale shape and you slid it down to the next quadrant and you got your C minor 3 scale. You understand that? We took a simple thing and we just slid it on our amplified circle of fifths, and we got another scale. All right? This is not a mode of this, but it's yet another mode with the same tonal center. This is the beauty of it. Now watch that. Let's take that same scale shape. Now I couldn't take that scale shape and squeeze it in here, but if you took this scale shape here, all right, and you slid it down 2 cells. In other words, if you went down here, 1, 2, if you went down 2 cells and started your scale shape here, the same scale shape, you would get another scale, C minor. It's the C minor scale. Now look at this. You see, I can't squeeze them all in the same chart, but it's the same scale shape. This is hard to do. This is low technology videos here. I took the major scale shape. If you slide it down to this position, all right, you get your C minor scale. If you slide it down one more cell, you get your C minor 3 scale. You see, in other words, this one here would be embedded in here, but it would make it look junky and you wouldn't be able to understand it. So that's one of your 3 scale shapes for your 7 modes. That, and there's that's 3 of that's shape. This is one shape, and all we did was we slid it down. It's really handy. Now, what's another scale shape? Well, you can see here that my C minor major scale, that's what the name I use in my system, has this, assumes this scale shape. And if you slide it down, all you do is slide it down, you get your C minor 2 tones. You see that there? All we did was we slid it down. That's like that. And we get 2 more modes. 2 more modes that are different from these. You see, we're building now. Now we have 5. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've shown 2 different scale shapes. Now, there's the 3rd scale shape. And we have our scale, the C augmented. Alright, that's our C augmented scale, and it makes this shape. It assumes this shape here. Alright, and then you take it and you slide it all the way around to the opposing quadrant, to the opposite quadrant, and you get the C minor 2 augmented scale, which I featured in some of my accordion videos. You see how that works? There were 3 scale shapes here. Now let's go back again, because I think this is a beautiful thing. I was afraid to talk about this a while back because I thought I'd lose my viewers. Here's your C major scale, and then in the data rings that we have chosen, we're trying to stick with the basic theme of the amplified circle of fifths. For example, we have a C major scale here, and our tonal center, our tonic, is C. And look at that, it's in the major data ring. It's in the major data ring, all right? Our C major scale. Down here, we have the C minor 3 scale, which you would probably call your natural minor. That's what you'd probably call it. And you see your tonal center, your tonic, is in the minor data ring. That gives you a helpful hint. Understand that? Now we move to the C minor scale here, and we see again that the C, the tone, is in the minor data ring. Naturally, we have a minor scale. We have that. Here we have a funny scale. We'll talk about this more later. C major minor, I call it, because it uses 2 of my scale phrases. In my system, a scale is made with 2 scale phrases. The first scale phrase is major, so you see our tonic, our tonal center, falls in the major data ring. Here's another scale, a C minor 2. All right, this is made with 2 minor 2 scale phrases. That's why I called it that. 2 minor 2 scale phrases. And you see, when we slid this down and we formed this scale, the C is in the minor data ring. It's a helpful hint. It's a very helpful feature. We have the C augmented scale, which in reality, the full name in my system would be C augmented major, but either way, the C will fall in either the counter major data ring or the major data ring, but here you see it's in the counter major data ring. And here we have another scale, C minor 2 augmented, all right? Your C tonic or tonal center falls in your minor data ring, and all we did was we slid this scale shape over to the opposite quadrant, and boom, you're done. You have 7 modes with C as the tonic. You can do it beautifully on the amplified circle of fifths. You can do all that on here. You can do all that, and if you don't want to use it for composition or whatever, you can at least use it for theory to teach children, because there's so much stuff on here. You know, I'm only skimming the surface. I don't have forever. So anyway, so that's that. And if we go back to the easy rectangular version, I wanted to say one last thing. I threw in another scale. It's the C minor major. Now traditionally, this is called the melodic minor. I don't like that name. I don't call it that, but this would be called the melodic minor. Now, if you took your circle of fifths, your amplified circle of fifths, and changed it to rectangles, all right, to make it easier to envision, all right, you would see this funny scale shape. It's odd. And from this scale, just like with the example in G I used, you can get 7 more modes. In other words, I can make 7 more charts showing this, the traditional melodic minor, and then I would show you 7 more scale shapes like I did with this. You see? But we don't need to go there because you're probably not going to use those scales anyway. Did anybody understand any of that? I hope so. This to me is, we're ready. We're now getting into some of the really beautiful features, qualities of the amplified circle of fifths. Now we're really getting into some really good stuff. So I hope that made sense. If not, watch it over and over and maybe you'll get it. So thank you for being incredibly patient, and good night.